Time has brought us a myriad of gods and monsters, angels and demons from every culture, from every part of the world. Myth is something we all share, even though these beings from the collective unconscious wear many different masks. And throughout antiquity, they have been perceived as guides. But most tend to be guides on the right-hand path, for the majority of the populace would rather be led down a smooth road while their escort whispers in their ear, "All will be okay." But not all guides are so benevolent. Some have a darker aspect, and they're not so much guides, but more like companions. Companions that accompany us in a different direction on a road not so smooth. They are the avatars of the archetypes. Those archetypes that dwell in the shadowy sphere of the collective unconscious called the dark absolute. They are paradoxical beings, for even though they're presented as fantastical entities of the subjective, their mission is to get you to face the realities of the objective. This objective world, this ephemeral realm we so precariously tread. This realm that isn't always all so pretty. The dark gods should not be ignored, but most people do so. And the truth is, I don't have a problem with that, because I've never been one for crowds. Let them be led by the nose, by the firm hand of their benevolent escort. Fearing and scapegoating the demons within is the factor that draws them toward a shepherd. So, when you take that first step on the path, make sure you get to know your companions, those gods and monsters, angels and demons. Because as I've stated before, they can either be the wind at your back, or they can be pulling your leash. In my past, I was part of the atheist-theist debate. And at this point, I am tired of it. Now, in my opinion, both sides are missing the point. All the gods and monsters, angels and demons do exist. They exist in the subconscious as the different faces of the archetypes. Let me explain. For thousands of years, here in the West, we needed to believe, have faith, that the faces of the archetypes were real. Without that faith, we could not commune with the sacred, the divine, or the demonic. The demons had to be tangible to dance with, and faith was the first step in that waltz. But faith is unnecessary when you understand metaphorical truth. This position is not on the fence. It is not agnostic. There is no maybe, kinda, I don't know. It simply states the fact of what these beings are. And as living aspects of the sacred, they are conduits for you to utilize to get closer to the divinity within you, the divine. And what is the divine? It's consciousness. Both atheistic and theistic Satanists speak of self-deification. But how can you reach self-deification without understanding the divine within you? And how do you do that? By conjuring the gods and monsters, angels and demons, and making them conscious. And with this philosophy, no faith is needed. To reach Yahweh, it takes faith. But to reach the gods and monsters, angels and demons of the left-hand path, it takes gnosis. And that takes work. Because of the video I made recently called Where the Demons Live, I feel a need to clarify a few things. These topics I've touched on more than once before, and they are my stance on objective reality, the collective unconscious, and especially the faces of the archetypes, the gods and monsters, angels and demons, also known as mythological beings. Now, just because they're mythological does not make them any less real than your dog or your neighbor or Donald Trump for that matter. They exist. They exist in that vast realm greater than the objective universe called the collective unconscious. Now, I want you to imagine a very large soap bubble. The objective realm, that's if it exists, but more on that later. This place of matter where we all survive is the surface tension of that bubble. Very thin, very delicate. Now, below it, under the surface, is that place we sometimes visit when we sleep and dream, or when we partake in ritual or meditation, or sometimes when we take hallucinogens. And what we are doing when we perform these acts is opening a portal downward into that vast realm where the faces of the archetypes dwell, so that we may commune with them, those sentient beings, beings with minds and wills of their own. That's what conjuring is. The reason why these beings are no less real than those we interact with in the objective realm is because of the simple fact we cannot be 100% certain of the objective realm. Look around you. All that you see may be a great big lie created by the demiurge, or a holographic simulation. You don't know for certain. But what you can be 100% certain of, that you're a conscious being. Now, where that consciousness originates, where it truly is, we cannot be certain. It may all just be in our heads. Or your consciousness may originate in that very boring, static realm where the simulation was created for a little excitement. Who knows? But what I do know is I think, so therefore I am. And because of this, I'm going to delve into the realm I know exists. That endless universe within my psyche. Sinisterism is about struggle, a raw, primal struggle with the self. It's not about being a pussy. Does that word offend you? Are you easily offended? Did I hurt your feelings? Then sinisterism is not for you. Climb back into your safe space because you won't be getting any participation trophies around here. Apotheosis, self-deification, individuation, enlightenment, sinister illumination, whatever you want to call the goal you're trying to reach on this path is a struggle. A real struggle. And in the greater philosophical and psychological perspective, it's about a struggle you are having with the inner self. A personal struggle. One I fully understand. I understand that just below the surface of our reality is an abyss of madness and horror, and that the surface we stand upon, all of us, is fragile. It's called being a fucking human being, being alive. But what helps me to cope personally is the empowerment I get from sinisterous philosophy. This path of the individual, because I can't go where you're going into the recesses of your personal abyss, should be leading you to psychological wholeness. Sure, conjuring up new friends and acquaintances, communing with the old gods, dancing with the demons, if you will, is all part of it. But venturing into the depths of your personal hell should be the foremost reason, the most important reason why you're on the path. I've come to notice that many of those who say they're on the left-hand path are miserable, complaining and blaming others in society for their woes in life. And for some of you, it appears the path itself is contributing to your misery. And as I've mentioned before, I know the reason why. It's because you still aren't facing the darkness. You're allowing nihilism, despair, and the horrors of the dark absolute to seep in. The unknown, the foreign, and there is no greater fear than the fear of the unknown. I know many of you stepped onto the left-hand path out of childish rebellion, not for apotheosis or sinister illumination. So you try to plug that hole in your psyche with just about anything. But if you're doing that, then you don't understand what the left-hand path is. It's about embracing those demons that spill forth from that inner hell while wallowing in the evil. and you can embrace them because you know them. So don't ignore the abyss and what lies therein, pretending it isn't there. Get to know it by joining us on the sinistrous path.
In the sect of the Horn God, we have what's called the Sigil Project. What we do is find that aspect of the psyche that relays messages between your ego and your subconscious. It may come to you in dreams, nightmares, or visions. We call it your personal demon, and we give it a sigil. Now, just below the surface of your waking reality is an abyss of madness and horror. Take a moment and think about it. You can feel it. You know you can. It's there all the time. And the surface you stand upon is fragile. It's the dark absolute, and its depths are limitless. It is the abyss. Sometimes its contents come to the surface as either fear, panic, or rage. And if you've emptied your psyche, divorced yourself from what Carl Jung called a symbolic life, the life of myth, imagination, and metaphor, then you've created a conduit for that dark absolute, allowing its contents to spill out in a rush of nihilism and despair. Most fill the psyche, plugging it with either religion, New Age spiritualism, or the occult, ignoring what's going on under that fragile foundation. We, on the left-hand path, do not ignore the abyss, pretending it isn't there. This is where your personal demon comes in. Using it as a guide, we venture into its horrific depths, the depths of the dark absolute, like Virgil and Dante into hell, to face those horrible truths, going ever deeper. Until we come to terms with its stark reality. Until we come out into the light.
Asmodeus, Asmodeus, Asmodee, whatever you want to call him, he is a powerful demon, one of the 7 princes of hell, a demon whose wickedness is only matched by his cunning. Devil of sensuality and luxury, he specializes in spreading lust, and he doesn't just prey on the common man, no. Kings, queens, and even divine beings have felt his influence. But even though he is the prince of lust, his looks don't exactly make the girls wet. He's often depicted as having 3 heads, one like a sheep, one like a bull, and one like a man with pointed ears, a hooked nose, jagged teeth, and a fire-breathing mouth. All 3 of his heads are crowded above a human torso, but at the waist, though, his body undergoes another bizarre transformation. He has rooster-like legs and the tail of a serpent. And he rides upon a lion with the wings and neck of a dragon. But still others have described him as a young man with an attractive face. Who knows? Being one of the 7 princes of hell, though, he is thus responsible for spreading one of the 7 deadly sins. And of course, that's lust. And as such, some sources state that he is the husband of Lilith. Now, he not only preys on those who succumb to lust, he also dabbles in other sins and vices as well, such as gambling. Most scholars agree that Asmodeus is derived from a demon from Zoroastrianism, later adopted by the Jewish and Christian faiths. In the Talmud and the Testament of Solomon, 3rd century BCE, Asmodeus appears as one of the demons who was forced to help build Solomon's temple. But he proved to be too powerful to suffer under the yoke of slavery and hurled Solomon 400 miles out into the desert, then disguised himself as the king and took over his palace. Eventually, though, Solomon returned to drive the demon out. Over time, medieval demonologists ranked him as one of the highest in the hierarchy of hell, calling him a strong and powerful king, commanding over 72 legions. So, I ask you, my friends, when was the last time you've given in to Asmodeus, the demon of lust? Besides being the name of 2 different bands, one in the 80s and another in the present, Belphegor is one of the 7 princes of hell and the demon of sloth. A fallen angel, Belphegor is a phallic deity associated with sex, orgies, and all forms of debauchery. He is a shapeshifter who often appears as a terrible demon with leathery flesh, huge horns, a fang-gaping mouth, and claw-like hands, but will, at times, take up the form of a beautiful woman naked in all her glory to seduce those who would fall for his wiles. Belphegor's origins go back to the ancient Middle East, and because of this, he can be found in the Bible where he really pissed off Moses. What happened was, during the Exodus, some Israelites started making sacrifices to Belphegor, then called Baal Peor, the patron of Moab in Assyria. This happened because some of the men began fucking the women of Moab, who introduced them to their local god. Moses handed down the death penalty, and it was said that as many as 24,000 people were killed. But we're not sure if they were actually executed or Moses called down a plague to cause their deaths. Asshole Moses fucking up a good orgy. As the biblical enemy of the sixth Sephiroth and angel of beauty, Satan sent Belphegor to discover if marital love was real or a fallacy that could be taken advantage of by his minions. He searched high and low and reported back to Satan that none could be found on Earth. What he did find, though, was Paris, France. As a former deity of all debauchery, he apparently became enamored with the seedier side of the city. The reason for this is, in addition to being an adversary of the sixth Sephiroth, he is considered to be an adversary to Mary Magdalene, who is a patron saint of France. In the end, Belphegor is called forth by those seeking fame and wealth through creative means without exerting much effort. And as with most demonic invocations, the unwise are doomed to failure, because Belphegor's true mission is to draw the lazy into the sin of sloth, rather than producing or getting shit done, thus leaving them fucked. Now, have any of you ever dared to call up Belphegor, or were you too lazy? If you were, then he's already won. Who is Beelzebub? Beelzebub is the demon of gluttony, and as one of the seven princes holds a high place in hell's hierarchy. He fans the flames of war or lust and is the chief lieutenant of Lucifer. It is said that Beelzebub is among the three most prominent fallen angels, the other two being Lucifer and Leviathan. Many scholars consider Beelzebub to be a derogatory term invented by the Israelites. Originally known as Baal-zebub, a god of the Philistines, when the ancient Hebrews became monotheistic, any god who wasn't the one true God had to be discredited. So Baal-zebub was turned into a demon and disgraced with nicknames like Lord of the Flies and Lord of Dung. In the Testament of Solomon, Solomon claims that Beelzebub was among the demons whom he enslaved to build his temple. He describes a conversation with the demon in which Beelzebub claimed to cause destruction through tyrants, to cause demons to be worshipped among men, to excite priests to lust, to cause jealousies in cities and murders, and to bring on war. Anything that causes chaos or suffering is sure to delight this demon. Like many demons, he is often described as smallish, withered, and hunched. He may have red or purple skin, ram's horns, a forked tongue, a long tail, and powerful wings. Some grimoires state that, when summoned, Beelzebub likes to appear in the shape of a fly. But don't be fooled by this appearance. John Milton, in his epic poem Paradise Lost, featured Beelzebub as seemingly the second ranking of the fallen angels. Some theologians claim that Beelzebub usurped Satan's throne and became Prince of Hell, while a few claim that Beelzebub and Satan are one and the same. Like all demons, Beelzebub has an assortment of magical powers, and his specialty seems to be possession. In the early days, he liked to embody golden idols, making them seem as if they had powers so that people would worship them. Later, he began possessing human beings. His name has appeared in famous cases of possession, including the witches of the Salem witch trial. So, in conclusion, many believe Beelzebub is just another variation on the devil. But he is not. He is distinct. And of all the demons in hell, Beelzebub is the one whom Satan trusts most.